Hey guys, welcome back to the Black Diamond Authority podcast. We're joined by Amos, CEO of Black Diamond Authority, and Mikkel, business partner to Reversible LLC. And I am Jarek Moore, also the owner of Reversible, working with Black Diamond Authority, and we're here to bring you some awesome content. Our next segment is in relation to career versus job. So how do y'all feel about what you're doing now versus what you want to do in the future? So we'll start with you, Amos. Job-wise, what are you doing currently?
Gotcha. I am the store manager of a CVS. I think at this point of the new quarter, we are a $18 million store. It's retail, so you can only imagine the people that come in to the work that we have to do for the pay that we get. I will always say the goal would be to focus primarily on the business as it gets bigger and it grows, because the job definitely isn't it. The career before always felt kind of out of reach, which was a IT project manager, mostly because there's still some racial diversity still in the IT field that's kind of felt for most IT professionals on any level, that they probably know the same. And I kind of weighed my pros and cons and kind of felt like it's not really worth it to kind of fight my way through it. I'd rather make something, or to equivalent, make my own table to sit at.
Gotcha. And Mikkel, for you, what are you doing now currently job-wise?
Right now, I am working at a, just to keep it nondescript, a computer company in shipping. Used to have a lot of experience in customer service and call center kind of work. And yeah, I mean, does it pay bills and everything? Yeah, but it's not something I want to do the rest of my life, to put it lightly. Career-wise, when I graduated, I wanted to do IT, but to be honest, I kind of just lost interest in too much information, kind of got bored. Now I'm looking to do HVAC at a local college to try to get my foot in the door and earn more money while juggling doing stuff what I actually want to do, like podcasts, YouTube, maybe video games, stuff like that.
Very cool, very cool. I know for me personally, job at the moment, I'm a site coordinator for my local Boys and Girls Club. I love working with kids. I've been doing it since I was about 16. And I definitely have a huge passion for it, for sure. And I know that for a lot of people, depending on what you do, you're there to collect a paycheck so that way you can get on with your life. For me, it's more than that, but it's not what I want to do for a career. Since I was a kid, it's always been art. I've wanted to illustrate, be a comic book artist, and then it's evolved to where I wanted to own my own business and have a whole brand centered around characters and stories that I create. And so I've also kind of done the IT route. I think that's just one of those things as a millennial you end up getting into at some point or another.
Money.
It is money. It's good money.
Sure.
But I definitely think that for those that strive to have financial freedom, definitely finding a career towards something that means something to you that you can dedicate your time and effort into is something that's a lot more beneficial. Because the way things are now, especially with the economy and the way the whole workforce is after post-COVID and the big walkout, nobody wants to do the 9 to 5 all day long, especially when it's something that you're not really passionate about. And that's why a lot of people have been starting businesses. So, but you started your business prior to COVID. So,
Yes.
since starting your business and having to juggle, a job to support it, how are you able to manage doing both effectively?
Gotcha. I would say the only thing that the workforce showed me was how to make an effective schedule. Excuse me. So for the scheduling part, I just did what you probably see 1,000 times on Instagram is you do your 9 to 5 and then you do your 6 to 12. And that was kind of the arrangement for, I believe, 2 years before I even started the business to make sure, one, I had everything I wanted to do figured out, but two, to make sure I even want to do it. So I did 2 years of creating, not selling, to see if I could do another 2 years. It's the whole idea of, if I can do it without chasing the money, would I do it? And that's what I tested myself on for 2 years. And then I filed for the LLC on that month anniversary. And from there, it kind of just started off as, okay, so where do I sell this inventory? Then you figure out who's your target market. Then you find out your target market may not have what you're needing, as in capital or at least the idea of marketing you. And then from there, you have to figure out what will actually make you happy, because at the end of the day, you're the one who's out here moving, traveling, asking questions, and trying to get yourself sold. And then last but not least, where's your end goal? And once you kind of figure that out, it's kind of easier to schedule what you're wanting to do, but it's always changing.
Gotcha. I know that I can speak more so on behalf of Mikkel and I, because we've done business together. When we started Reversible, it was one of those things where it was you work your 9 to 5, and then it was the long nights of trying to get stuff done. And it can become incredibly daunting. It's one of those things where you have to bunker down and know that this is something that you're dedicated towards doing. And it's one of those things where it's like, you're going to have your good days, you're going to have your bad days. And the days you don't see money is one of those things. It's like, do you really want to do this still? You try to dedicate all this time, and you know there's got to be a payoff sooner or later. And as an entrepreneur, well, specifically more so as Black entrepreneurs, I know we kind of run into a little more roadblocks than some people normally would, whether it become like a financial issue, trying to secure funds, whether it be networking and things of that nature. I know from personal experience that there are a lot of people that tell you that they'll support you, that we support Black business and stuff like that. They'll say that to your face, and then it's one of those things, well, what are you going to provide for me after you've done such and such and such and such? It's one of those things where it's like, well, I've got to start from the bottom too. I need you to be patient with me, and as I grow, we're going to take care of you too. Mikkel, for your experience working with Reversible and you know, working towards a career in your own things and doing business, what are some of the things that you've appreciated and learned from being an entrepreneur?
With doing a lot of that different stuff, you kind of learn, at least in my case, I want to say attentiveness, and you kind of learn, I'd say, how much really goes into it. It's a lot of the stuff that like you mentioned, we ran into a lot of stumbling blocks the first time trying to do it, and it was rough. But I guess with anything, it's like if you're kind of serious about it, or at least just want to put your hand at it, you know, you just keep trying at it until you either see something or kind of, you know, branch things off in different directions to see where you might want to go. Just, I guess the word is adapt.
And that's something that you definitely have to do with the landscape of things, for sure. How many times have you had to restructure your business strategy going forward in order to, you know, stay relevant in the field?
All the time. Even now, restructuring always has to happen. Main reason why is tax season, which is already upon us again. You don't want to alienate yourself from too many tax opportunities, but you don't want to also leave yourself exposed to too many, because then you can have big fines. But also for growth opportunities. The first time I made it, it was just an LLC for a artist. And then when I realized that when you're a one artist LLC, you can't branch off to other things in different industries as well. So then it became a general LLC, but then when you're general, your taxes are higher. So all the money you worked hard for just went all out the window, and you can't reinvest in yourself as a business. So then you get zoned into managing artists, but then at that point, Where's your employees? So it's like everything changes all the time. But I will say, think about everything thoroughly and see what that kind of looks like before you do the switch over. Because every time you change it, you do got to pay the IRS something to change it.
And stay on top of those taxes is important because you don't want to see those hidden fees and things take you away from doing what you love and hurt your business. I do have a question for you both. In regards to career versus job or job versus side hustle, how much stock goes into treating the business or treating what you do like a business as opposed to people that say, oh, I do this for fun. I make it as a side hustle. I get this money on the side to supplement the job that I have. How much stock do you have in putting in like your full force into going into making it not a side hustle versus a career?
Gotcha. It's a matter of perspective for me. So, the only time I've ever referred to my business as a side hustle is when I wasn't sure when I wanted to do the business. But once I knew without a shadow of a doubt, like, this is what I want to do beyond even my own lifespan, I do say my business with lots of confidence, lots of ego, chest pumped out. Even when I'm with my employers and they ask me what I'm doing, I almost scream it. I'm going to my business. I'm about to do stuff with my business today. And the reason why I do that is even though I'm not a big fan of manifestation, mostly because people kind of turn it into kind of an unhealthy way of doing things. I do it that way so I'm always reminded that the 9 to 5 is just that. It just pays the bills, but it doesn't facilitate anything else. It doesn't make me happy. I'm never once telling people like, oh man, you ought to come here. We do great things. You ought to work here. It's like, no, I would never promote something that I don't fully agree in because there's a little bit of integrity with that. So if I promote myself with that much confidence, then I'm building that trust or that integrity with the brand. So that's why I always put the business over everything. Any side hustles I do is mostly for the 9 to 5 bills. But the business itself is the end goal. Eventually the side hustles will end, the 9 to 5s will end, but the business will remain. And that's kind of how I think about it.
Gotcha. And I know that I don't know if prolific is the right word, but I know definitely working towards it. You've got a growing YouTube following. Do you consider YouTube to be a side hustle for you, or is it something that you know that you want to do long term, something that'll grow for you?
I would say at least with where I'm at right now, it's a weird position because I can see it being something more. But at the same time, it's still kind of in its infancy stages. I've been doing it for around 4 years on and off, but I've also been doing it long enough to where I know a lot of the ins and outs, policy-wise, editing, audio, all that kind of stuff, and I can definitely see it becoming a career, but I would need to put a lot more into it. And I don't mind that just because it is fun. I have more so the mindset of if it is something that is fun, then, and if it seems like it's a viable option, take it and run with it to see how far you can do it. So I can definitely see it being a future thing if it's something that I enjoy doing.
Going into any type of career or business comes with a lot of risk and risk management. For you guys, what are your thoughts on being able to take those leaps of faith, even though other people might not see what your vision or goal is?
In my situation, it's a little unique. I'm not looking for pity, but I don't really have like a big support group for me to fall back on outside of the company. So with all ideas that I have, I reverse break them down. So I'm always thinking like, worst case scenario, how would I break this down? Or how could I get this, for example, event shut down, or how could I have this fail? And I'll work my way out that way. So when I finally, pull up with my idea, it's almost bulletproof. And doing it that way has its pros and cons. One is kind of taxing, but it's the right mentality to have if you're wanting to have a foundation built on these projects or activities. So I'm fine doing that extra mental workload, even though I'm always ready for a nap afterwards. But I do it that way to make sure nothing kind of comes up out of nowhere, or it has to completely stop because I didn't think about something as small as, funding or security, or, how you're going to monetize that. I like to have everything broken down in steps to the point where if I was busy and I handed it to a stranger, they could do it for me step by step, and it would be the same way I envision it. And doing it that way also kind of gives me a mental break, so I can just follow the steps compared to double checking every single thing I do. I already did that in the beginning. And that's kind of how I kind of mitigate my risk, but some risks are kind of unavoidable at the same time. But I try to at least stop the, human error side of it to the most of my ability.
Very good. What about you?
I would say my situation is somewhat similar to yours. I mean, we're all generally, well, at least I can't say for everyone listening, but everyone here is kind of in the same situation of we don't necessarily have a safety net. We're kind of at the age now where it's like how should I say, you're all in or nothing. It's like, hey, you're old enough, do what you can. And so as far as risk management goes, I would say at least in my mind, I kind of think of as much scenarios that can or can't happen as far as what could go wrong, what's the best kind of options. Not gonna lie, it is kind of difficult to think about, but I mean, it's either you do or you don't, and it's kind of hard to mitigate, like we've said before. Naysayers, good, bad, but if it's something you really want to do, just do it. And I think I'm always, as far as like risk coming up, things are always changing. I'm always trying to learn, do new options. And so, yeah, I break things down to a point of where I analyze as much as I can, but not over-analyzing, and just sort of taking a leap of faith. It's difficult to do because you want to, it's kind of like the table, you want to hold on to it. I know like it's sturdy, it's going to be there, but it's like you're not always going to have somebody that's there to say what's good or bad. Sometimes it's better just to act than to wait because opportunity might not be there.
I have been blessed and incredibly fortunate that growing up, and especially after developing my business, my family's been very supportive, at least in the ways that they know that they could be. But one of the things that I realized while trying to do things was, well, if you don't know how this is going to go, or these risks are a part of this, are you sure you want to do this because this could set you back some? And it was hard for me to know if I should move forward doing specific things, because it's like, well, if I take this risk and I fail, these are all these thoughts in my head that I don't know how to move forward from that. But you don't ever get anywhere unless you take risks. And so, of course, failure is a part of the process. You might fail, you might not fail. But staying stagnant by not taking the risk never gets you anywhere close to your goals. And I felt that, like, when I was finally able to separate myself from those thoughts and ideas of doing this might yield failure and just taking the leap of faith and doing it anyways, I've gotten a lot further along. I've created more things. I've seen a lot of things that don't work, so I know what works now better. And I think that applies to all things, whether it be in business, whether it be in learning new skills, whether it be just in anything that you do. And it's awesome to see that there are more people that appreciate the idea of taking the risk and growing from it as compared to staying stagnant, because staying stagnant is not going to yield any fruit in anything that you do.
Sure.
And to me, it's kind of reminiscent of, I don't know if a lot of our parents are the same, but my parents, both of them came from like small towns. My dad literally lived out in the country growing like vegetables and stuff for people. And so their main thing of it being a small town, it's like, well, what do we do? It's like, there's nothing here. All the people who stay here are either, having kids or, wind up in bad situations. So they, as much as we get a lot from them because it's, they're not necessarily sure of the risk and all those different kinds of things, they had to take those same risks for my parents. It was joining the military because that's the only option they had of getting out. So I kind of get where they're coming from, but at the same time, it's like when you were our age, you did the same thing. And so you got to do what you have to do.
Oh, for sure.
I definitely think, especially as creative people and as artists, taking risks is a lot harder for people to understand when you're not in that mindset. When you create artwork and you try to build a career around it, for somebody that's not artistic or have that same sense of abstract thinking, it's harder to imagine yielding benefits or yielding results from something that's not concrete. You're not guaranteed to make money from art as much as you would, like, say, being a mechanic or a teacher or joining the military. It's one of those things that's like you get into it what you put into it, and even then you're not guaranteed those results. So definitely finding like-minded people to keep you going is one of those things I think helps with the process as well. But it all depends on your work ethic. I really think that really yields the benefit for it.